What's up, guys? This is Christopher Carrington. I am back with another tutorial, and today we're going to actually start writing some JDBC, and we're going to actually start doing what I talked about in the previous tutorial. And you're going to learn a ton in this video, so just stick with me and we're going to work all the way through it. So the first thing that we need to do is set up a MySQL database on our local host. This makes sense because with JDBC you are connecting to a MySQL database or any database that you choose. I like to do MySQL because it's free and a lot of companies use it, so it's good to know MySQL. You can do another database if you like, but it will be easier to follow these tutorials if you stay with the same database that I'm using. So, in order to get a MySQL database onto your local host so that Java can talk to that MySQL database, you have two options. If you are running a Windows machine, just type in WAMP server. And you're going to be directed to wampserver.com/en, and what I need you to do is come here and download the WAMP server. I'm not going to run through that because there are tons of videos on YouTube that show you how to do this, but honestly it's just a 6-click install and I'm sure you guys can handle it. And if you can't, just go on YouTube and see where you might have had a little hiccup and then come back to me. Now, if you're running a Mac like I am, then type in Google MAMP. And this is the alternative for Macs. And all you would do is you would just come here and you would be able to download your MAMP server. And it's an easy one-click install. And again, I'm not going to run through this. It's very, very simple. But if you have any problems, just go on YouTube, type in download MAMP. You'll see tons of videos and you'll be directed on what to do. Then come back to me and we'll be right on the same page. So once you have either a MAMP or a WAMP server, what I'd like you to do is run that server. So I'm going to click MAMP and I'm going to start my server. So you see MAMP, manage your websites, and as you see it right here, it says start servers. So I'm just going to click that. And I'm going to type in my password. And now we will see that we have a MySQL server on our machine. And you know that because it says MySQL right here, and it gives the credentials for this MySQL server. So we know it's running on the local host, we have the port number, and we have root, and we have root. And if we actually want to see the MySQL database, all we do is click phpMyAdmin. And you will be able to see the MySQL database. You'll be able to create tables, insert information, all that cool stuff. So now you have a MySQL database on your machine. Pretty cool stuff, and it's very, very simple. Now, one of the first things that I need everyone to do is change your port numbers for your MySQL database. I've already changed mine, but for some reason with the MAMP basic version, it doesn't show when you've changed your port numbers in here. But we want to make all of our port numbers to the default port number 3306. So, in order to do that, come to your MAMP preferences and go to ports and change your Apache port to 80 and your MySQL port to 3306. This is going to be very important in the future, and if you don't change it, then you're just going to need to know what your MySQL port actually is. So it's okay if you say, you know, I don't want to follow Chris, I actually want to keep it something different. Just make sure later on in the tutorial when I ask you what's your port number, you remember what it is. And if you're using WAMP and getting to the port numbers a little bit differently and you can't find it right now, just take 2 seconds, do a quick Google search, and I'm sure you will find it in 3 seconds. This is a very simple thing to do. So now that we make sure that everyone's Apache port is the same and the MySQL port is the same, then we can move forward because now we're all on the same page. So let's just click OK. So now we have a MAMP server up and running and it has a MySQL database on our local host. We're good to go. So I'm just going to minimize this, and now we're going to open up our IDE and start actually coding. So I have an IDE open here. I like to use Java Eclipse Juno. If you like to use a different IDE, NetBeans, whatever you like to use, that's totally fine. It will be a little bit easier if you follow me with Eclipse because obviously there will be places where I'm clicking and it might be a little easier for you to follow along, but to each his own. So in Eclipse Juno, I'm going to start a new project. So just right click in here, click New, and let's go to Dynamic Web Project. And in the Dynamic Web Project, I'm going to call it First App. I already made one of those. So I'm just going to type in, let's just call it JDBC. And I'm going to click Next. Next, I'm going to ask it to generate web.xml deployment descriptor, and then I'm going to type Finish. And now we have our first app in our workspace. So the next thing that we're going to need to do is take one more quick jump into Mozilla and download one more thing, and then we'll be totally in Eclipse, I promise. So there's just one more thing to quickly download. In order to make the connection from this IDE to this MySQL database, we need a thing called a JDBC driver. And in order to get that, let's go to a new tab, or we can just do it here. Let's go to a new tab. And let's type in connector / and J, and type enter. And the first link you will see is mysql.com downloads connector J, and that's the one we want. So click that. And let's go to the zip file. So you will see platform independent. At the time of this video, we are on 5.1.22. And do me a favor and download this connector / J. And I've already downloaded this, but I'm going to go through this because there's a little bit of a weird understanding. So I just want to make sure I go through this with you guys. So you can put in your credentials, or you can just come down to the bottom and say, no thanks, just start my download. So you will see MySQL connector, and we're going to open that. And now in my downloads file, you will see I am running on a Mac, so it's already unzipped. And here's what I want. If you're running on some other machine, you have to unzip it, just double click it, and you will have it unzip. Now this isn't the actual, this folder isn't what we want to actually put into our IDE to make that connection from Java into Eclipse. In order to make that connection, we're going to need this file right here. MySQL connector Java 5.1.22, and it ends in jar. So find that file within the folder that ends in jar. This is the file that we are going to need to help us make our connections from Java to MySQL, and it's called a driver. So in order to do this, it's very simple. Let's just minimize this. Let's keep our downloads open. And in order to put this driver into Java to make that connection to MySQL, just open up this, and let's come down to Web Content and Web-INF. And you're going to see a folder here called lib. In that lib folder, we want to put this MySQL connector. So in order to do that, it's just a quick drag and drop. Let's just drag it and drop it to the lib folder and click Copy Files. So now when we open the lib folder, we will see this jar, which is our driver, which will help us go from Java to MySQL. So we just made a driver that helps us go from Java to MySQL. I don't know how many times I can say it, but hopefully you finally got it. So you know we have a driver, Java to MySQL. So obviously in our code, we are going to be using this driver anytime we want to make our connection. So in the next video, we're going to actually start some of our hard coding in our main method to start to make that connection from Java to the MySQL database. So I hope this tutorial was useful and setting up everything that we need to get going. And in the next tutorial, I promise we will start writing some JDBC code.